How you guys doing? I'm N Sullivan, and today we're going to talk about villains. Every story has one, whether it's another person or group of people, or the natural world, or yourself. Man versus man, man versus nature, man versus himself. Those are my three go-tos. Now, villains can be a lot of fun to write. And something I learned a long time ago is that everybody's the hero of their own story, including the villain. So you have to write them like they're the hero of their own story. So we're going to do a few what ifs today about the bad guys. So we'll start out with the easiest one. Man versus nature. Now, this was used by Ernest Hemingway a good bit, and it's the basis of most disaster movies. The Ernest Hemingway example that comes to mind first is The Old Man and the Sea. It's right there in the title, The Old Man and the Sea, where the man battles a fish, I believe it was a shark if memory serves, on a hand line. So right there, any animal. The Gray is another great example of this one, where not only are they battling an animal, but they're also battling the elements. All your disaster movies, 2012, Armageddon, all of those are man versus nature. And they are all viable villains for your stories. Antagonists. I like the term villain better. Or baddie. That's a good one too. But this is an easy one. I say easy because you have a lot of directions you can go with it. As I just said, you can use animals, you can use natural disasters, you could use something as simple as a rainstorm as the basis for any of these. How do your characters react to it? How do they prepare? How do they deal with this situation? I think that's a great place to start with a man versus nature. And you can also blend all of these together, by the way. Don't forget that when you're thinking of your own what ifs. The second one is man versus man. Now, this one's really pretty common across the board. You see it in a lot of science fiction, you see it in a lot of fantasy, you see it pretty much everywhere. Notable examples would be Star Wars is definitely man versus man. Everywhere. If you can't think of an example of a protagonist and an antagonist that are both people, then you need to read more. What if your protagonist is trying to start a barber shop and the antagonist runs an already existing barber shop and is trying to stop them from cutting in on their business? I realize that's a pretty small example, but still an accurate one. Or what if your protagonist is trying to free the galaxy and your antagonist is trying to control the galaxy? That's Star Wars in a nutshell. So look for examples of this everywhere. They literally exist everywhere. The third one in this trio of baddies is man versus himself. A great example of this would be something like Stephen King's The Dark Half, or possibly, depending on how you look at it, The Shining. A Beautiful Mind is another great example. What if there was something about the hero, the protagonist, that made them their own antagonist? They make themselves the villain of their own lives in some way. Some aspect of them has a darkness to it or an evil to it that they have to try to overcome. This, it gets into very psychological stuff, and it can be tricky to write about, but if you manage to do it, it can be some of the most moving stories around. It's everybody can associate with a hero who has flaws and is trying to overcome them. And if you're writing about this, that's the whole point, is the hero is battling their own flaws, their own darkness, their own proclivities, addictions, whatever it happens to be. So it gives you a lot of room to work. So what if your hero is their own villain? Alright guys, that's all for this episode of What If. I hope you liked it. If you did, leave me a like or a comment, preferably both. Check out my books and my Instagram and Facebook in the description below. And on the end card, you'll be able to subscribe, check out the rest of this series, and support me on Patreon. So, until next time, I'll talk to you later.